Today is Saturday, August the 1st. I'm meteorologist Tim Pandajis here with your tropical update. We're talking specifically today about Hurricane Isaias and Tropical Depression number 10. That's new since the last time we talked. Just a hint, it's nothing to worry about. We'll get to that at the end of this video. Let's start off with a big feature out in the Atlantic Basin in the Southwest Atlantic, moving through the Bahamas right now, still considered a hurricane. Not having a good day out there in the Bahamas. This is Hurricane Isaias right now. And if you were to look at this image right here, where would you think the center of that storm currently is? Somewhere in the middle, right? You look at this and say, yeah, it's probably in the middle of all that convection, all that thunderstorm activity. Well, actually, the storm is located, the center of it, just to the northwest of Andros Island, which is where it made landfall earlier today as a hurricane. So that tells us something right here. We're starting to see the storm being a little more lopsided, asymmetrical. All the convection and thunderstorm activity is being offset to the east of the storm center, and that tells us that wind shear is affecting the storm. Several things have been affecting the storm, but we'll talk about that wind shear in just a second. Here's a close-up view. You can see that center has now emerged back over the Florida Straits, well, into the Florida Straits, back over open waters right now. It's back to its fuel source, and it looks to be kind of clearing out that eye as it's lifting off towards the northwest and eventually possibly towards southeast Florida before the day is out. We're back in radar range here. We're going off the Miami radar site right now. You can see the spin, the center of that getting into farther, getting into closer range as it moves off to the north and west there. So with the convection, the main thunderstorm activity being offset to the east, we're seeing more squally type weather pushing onshore in Fort Lauderdale over through Miami and down to Key Largo. So brief heavy downpours. The more widespread heavier rain is just back off towards the north and northeast of that storm center right now. So why the weak appearance on satellite imagery this morning? Well, there's several factors. The first of which, it made landfall today. Land interaction and tropical systems don't mix too well, in fact, to keep it organized or strong, okay? When you're away from the fuel source, think of this as taking a pot of boiling water off of the stove. What happens? It's away from its heat source, so the bubbling starts to stop. And that's exactly what we saw here. The convection really kind of died down as it moved over North Andros Island here earlier today. And as it's moving back over the heat source, the burner's been turned back on, so we'll start to see some convection begin to flare on up. Also, the abundance of dry air. That has been an issue from the start of this system, building on through the Caribbean and then into the Southwest Atlantic, and of course the wind shear that's out there too. Let's look at the satellite imagery, the water vapor. This tells us the moist air and the dry air. Dry air is in the yellows and oranges, and there is a lot of it, almost completely surrounded. Not as dry to the north of the system, but dry enough. These mid-level moisture values, the relative humidity is very, very low, and this is building in that general direction there. So that is not going to help to strengthen it, at least in the short term. Hurricane center plots the center again right here. All that thunderstorm activity, the convection offset to the east and northeast of it, still over Nassau, Bahamas. It's not usual that you see a storm interacting with the Bahamas and weakening, because elevation of the Bahamas is really not there. The highest point, New Providence, is like 200 feet. That's as high as it gets in the Bahamas. We're not seeing any mountains here to kind of tear it apart. So that tells you overall the structure of this really wasn't great to begin with. So watches and warnings that are up ahead of the arrival of Isaias in the next 24 hours or so. We still have hurricane warnings up for the Bahamas, the offshore waters of Florida, and even the coastal areas. You step back inland a little bit, those are downgraded to tropical storm warnings in the orange. Farther off to the north, we see that there's a hurricane watch up in the red for the coastal waters of Georgia and a tropical storm watch for the coastal areas of Georgia there. Here's the track. We're going off the 11 o'clock track with the 2 p.m. intermediate advisory in terms of the strength of the system. So we're at 75 miles per hour, low grade, barely a Category 1 hurricane. Category 1 starts at 75 miles an hour. Below that, we're still a high-end tropical storm. So it's expected to strengthen just a little bit over the warm waters of the Florida Straits and then travel off to the north, paralleling the coastline of Florida. It could move a little bit farther west, could move a little bit farther east. As we go a little bit farther out in time, that cone gets wider. We see it's still at a Category 1 hurricane by Monday morning at 8 a.m. as it's offshore Georgia and Jacksonville over towards Savannah, lifting towards the north near Charleston, South Carolina. And this is where we could potentially see the next landfall of the system, moving up and over South Carolina and then eventually in the eastern parts of North Carolina over Wilmington. There's been a lot of kind of trends here pushing this off towards the west even further, leading to the models to say that it's thinking that the system's going to be much, much weaker than originally thought. Okay, tropical alerts now. We have more of them. We have a storm surge watch that's up for all the coastal areas in Florida, and that is for the onshore persistent flow of winds coming up and over and bringing some water with it. So that could be some storm surge inundation. The forecast right now is for 1 to 3 feet potentially from Jupiter Inlet south to North Miami Beach. Areas to the north here could see slightly higher totals of that, 2 to 4 feet potentially, all the way up to Ponte Vedra Beach, just south of Jacksonville in Florida. Again, this will be kind of updated as we get a little bit closer, but the potential's there of seeing at least some minor storm surge inundation. So the terms of weakening the system is really just short term because it's going to be moving over the open waters here, very warm waters, and eventually as it moves farther to the north, wind shear will lessen just a little bit and we have even more warm water. So there's likely going to be some strengthening from here on out, and this is going to be the area to watch for strengthening as we get into Monday and in an early Tuesday morning as it moves into the northeast. So keep that in mind there. We really have to keep an eye on that one. All right, here's how it looks in terms of the probability of at least tropical storm force winds. Along the coastal areas of Florida, pretty high probabilities. We're up to 70, 80, even close to 90% chances of that. And as we get farther out in time, those chances do go a little bit lower along the coast of South Carolina in and through the outer banks of North Carolina. We're up to around 50 to 60% chances there of seeing at least 40-mile-per-hour winds. Rainfall totals, it's going to be along the immediate coastline here. We see the highest totals through Florida, and then as it moves inland, it's going to rain itself out, so much higher totals here, higher impact event in terms of some potential flooding in eastern South Carolina and eastern North Carolina up into central and southeastern Virginia too. Let's take a look at the models right now because there have been some changes. We talked about that westward trend over the past couple of days, and you could see it here clearly on the tropical models. The consensus of most of them takes it as a weaker system, pushing it farther to the west and potentially inland in Florida. That land interaction earlier means a weaker storm overall as it lifts to the north. There's just a few that are still way offshore, meaning that they think it's going to be a little bit of a stronger system there. And as we lift north, we kind of see that consolidation of those forecast lines, taking it up into eastern North Carolina and eventually into Virginia, still looking at very heavy rainfall and some gusty winds too. Now the GFS model, the ensembles, we have 21 members of this, the same model being run 21 times, changing the variables slightly. And notice the vast majority of those members do think of a weaker system farther to the west, northwest, and only a handful still of those members are offshore as a stronger storm before they start to consolidate here and cluster heading up into the same general area we just saw. All right, let's compare now the GFS and the European model. The red lines are going to be the European model. The yellow lines are going to be the GFS. Something that's interesting here is that the European model has actually trended this morning to a slightly stronger storm, keeping it just offshore over the warm waters off of coastal Florida and then lifting it north, potentially landfalling it somewhere near Charleston, South Carolina, before lifting north. GFS has a weaker storm a little bit farther inland earlier into Florida. So we'll have to keep a close eye on that and what it actually verifies. I think this storm still has a few more surprises for us before it finally peters on out. All right, out there in the far parts of the Atlantic, we have another tropical system here. It's this little cluster of thunderstorms, which doesn't look like much. Because it's not, this is tropical depression number 10. It's north of the Cape Verde Islands, and it's going to fall apart within the next 12 hours, so nothing to worry about. There's another tropical wave, though, in between tropical depression 10 and Isaias here, and this is just a tropical wave currently. It has about a 60% chance of developing in a potentially Josephine if it gets better conditions as it moves off to the north-northwest there. Nothing to worry about right now, though, and likely not going to be affecting any land. All right, that's your Saturday update. Any questions? I'm on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter. Until then, enjoy the rest of your Saturday and your weekend.